Greetings IB artists, this is Miss A. I've got quite a few videos on how to apply to colleges and different aspects of that. And they're quite good actually, even if I say so myself. I had to research some of them for this video. So make sure that you check those out because it gives you like a pretty good view of what is involved. So in my short, I said that one of the main qualities of successful candidates is usually that they're passionate about what they're doing. And I kind of explain why. And I think today this video is about breaking down some of the characteristics that will definitely make you attractive to whoever is recruiting you for their institution. So people who are interviewing and so on. So I'm going to give you a list of qualities that will definitely help you stand out to anyone who's interviewing you. So obviously someone who is invested in their work. I think that comes across in the way that you discuss your work, in the level of engagement that you express as you're talking about your work, but also in the way that you talk about the process of everything from the inception, at the beginning of the ideas and the work, all the way through how you've developed it, all the way to the end, and how you feel about the artwork that was a result of that journey. So it's in the way that you talk about it, but also it's very clear whether a student is engaged with their work or whether they're just kind of, counting what the minimum number of required pieces is and just kind of, making sure that they've covered the basics. It's pretty obvious. Number two is there's a certain kind of confidence that comes with having worked through a variety of creative projects, which really gives you a faith in or a confidence about your own progress as an artist. It's a reward in itself, basically, and I think that comes across quite clearly. Someone who is open-minded and willing to learn. I think I've mentioned this before, but you want to come across as someone who is willing to learn new things. So not someone who is, stuck to their ideas or determined to stay in their comfort zone and only entertain their own interests or their narrow view of what art is and how it should be done, etc., etc. I mean, you might as well stay in your bedroom and continue doing that. That's true for the IB Art course, and that's true for college as well. If you don't allow yourself to try a variety of things and are open-minded to being exposed to and engaging with things that are different to how you think now or how you create now, because I think it's particularly important at this stage where you are still establishing yourself as an artist and what direction you want to take, etc. So I think this is really, really important at any age, but particularly now. What is also a big plus, I think, especially for example in interviews. In interviews, people are really trying to get to know you in a very short period of time. And your particular unique perspective on life, and especially creativity and art and the work that you do, is very interesting. Make sure that you really emphasize what it is while you are talking to the interviewers. Focus on what is uniquely you. Focus on what you are uniquely interested in. What are the concerns that you have in your work? What are you specifically exploring? And of course, this should also be evident in your work, because the ideas that you're exploring in the work should be a reflection of you in some way or your interest. This is why we have concepts and themes and ideas and focus underpinning our work. This is why we don't create bodies of work that are random, right? Because it all comes back to who we are, what are our specific interests that are explored and expressed in our work. Being a creative person, and I think the word creative is such an open-ended, sometimes misinterpreted word. I think what I mean by creative is that you are willing to look at things from different perspectives, that you are willing to connect things in a creative way, in a way that is possibly unique to you. And of course this involves you knowing to a certain extent what is the obvious, what is the expected way of making connections. And I think even if education only gives you that of what is already established, that's quite valuable information. So what I'm saying is, if you are a creative person, you are not afraid to break the rules, revisit the rules in a different way than you're expected to, inventing your own rules, etc., etc. So you're kind of looking for someone who is approaching and solving the challenges or issues that come up while working on artwork, and finds unexpected ways to solve them, and isn't lazy about only doing what's obvious. I hope I've explained that somewhat clearly. I think even on the IB Art course, the people who will score the highest are the people who are going beyond the obvious. It's also the interpretation, for example, of the criteria. The high scoring students are not only solving and answering those requirements, but they're going way beyond that. They are finding interesting, unexpected, exciting ways of answering the questions. Of course, this comes through, like I said, in the work and in the way you speak about your work. If you are someone who's truly inspiring in the sense that your take is so different and so interesting, then you are a highly creative person. And of course, this is a huge asset to any creative institution. It makes sense. Another quality is being a critical thinker. This is so important because, you know, we're all inundated with tons of information, but the critical thinker really thinks about that information. Is it actually true? How does this apply to me? How can I use this information in my own way, in my own work, to find creative applications of that information? That's a critical thinker. So it's not just about learning, it's not just about knowledge, it's about what do you do with that acquired knowledge, and how do you apply it in creative, unexpected, inspired ways. Independence is something that is extremely important, especially if you are in the creative field, because you have to motivate yourself. This is a very important characteristic of successful creative people, because you have to take initiative, you have to assess the progress that you're making and find your own next step. Of course, you can get help from teachers, peers, etc. I'm not saying that you have to do it all alone, but I think that kind of a general quality of being independent is extremely important if you want to enter the creative field. And it's definitely something that art institutions will be looking for in a candidate. Being hardworking. I mean, this is an obvious one for any field, you know, whatever you're applying for. But I think in art, it's really the best way to not only grow, not only better yourself and improve your, you know, everything from your skills to your ideas to the execution of work, but it really is where the inspiration is. The more you work, the more you generate ideas. And I think this is such an important part of, again, being creative, that it's really not to be underestimated. Your work ethic will show in how much work you've done, how well you've done that work. There's lots and lots of talented people, there's lots of very smart people, but if they don't put in the work, they remain people who have a lot of potential that isn't actually actualized. I think there's a saying, workers are winners, And I think this is absolutely true in any aspect of life. The more you put in, the more you get out of it. Another aspect of a desirable candidate is how social they are, how willing they are to collaborate with others, especially in an environment where you will be with a lot of people, and sometimes you have to share equipment depending on where you're going, etc. And you learn so much having that mindset of welcoming other people's ideas. That really helps you to grow beyond your own expectations, beyond your own limits. People who are open to collaborations and curious about other people's work and willing to compromise to a certain extent are good candidates, because there will be some of that within the educational environment that you will be in. And I think that's quite an important quality to have and to, emphasize when you're being interviewed. For those of you who are introverted and not necessarily the most social, that's okay. I'm an introvert myself. A lot of artists are. That's not a bad or a good thing. It's just something that, maybe you'll have to work a little bit harder when you're in that setting to overcome your reservations. Just remember that you are going to this art institution in order to grow, in order to learn. And I think if you have the right mindset of really doing the best that you can to actively seek learning opportunities, then you'll have a great time, whether you're a social person, generally speaking, or not. And of course, some of the best collaborations in art are with people that you tend to meet while you're at uni together. So never underestimate the power of the people that you will meet at these colleges, universities, etc. Such an important part of being a creative person. So make sure that you maximize on those opportunities. Another obvious one is ambition. What are your ambitions? Specifically, where you see yourself as an artist, how you see your work developing and evolving. And it doesn't mean that you have to have a 5-year plan. I mean, at this point, it's early days yet. You are on the brink of really getting to know yourself as a person, as an adult, as an artist. But it's important to convey that you have the interest and a sense of direction to pursue your education and your career as an artist in the future. So I really hope this has been helpful. I'm kind of saying the obvious, but I think sometimes people get really nervous about interviews, which is completely normal. So I think if you kind of display or express those qualities while you're talking to your interviewer, I think you've got a really good chance of being a successful candidate. So obviously I wish you all the very best. I'm excited about your future. Make sure that you do everything you can to give yourself the best opportunities. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.